Tracey Cook, and welcome to the podcast series Victim to Victory. This series gives a voice to those that overcome obstacles in all forms, that dare greatly to share their real stories. Amazing humans that have seen hope and risen above those adversities to become victorious, that now support, inspire, and empower others to do the same. And today's guest is no different. She is in a world of empowerment and inspiration. It is my honor to welcome her here. And today we're giving a voice to Genevieve Joy. Welcome to Victim to Victory.
Oh, hi, Tracey. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You are very welcome. Now, I just wanted to share a little bit about your story and your bio. And we were talking before the show, and you really need to connect with Genevieve. Her story is going to be really powerful and impactful. And I know what she's about to share with you might just change your perspective on a few things as well from what I've seen of Genevieve. Now, I just want to share a little bit about what she has shared with me, and then we'll let her tell her story. And her road to becoming the happy, energetic, and empowered person that she is was never, ever an easy one. And she never felt like she deserved to be loved and accepted. And as a result, she grew up feeling deeply unhappy. Now, I'm sure that she'll share what happened to her at the age of 21 and also with her surgeries. Please stay tuned because her story is not unlike a lot, but it just might be just like yours. Now, she is determined, so determined from everything I've seen from this powerful person, is to move past her physical challenges and live a full life. And she pushed past lingering symptoms and became a standout college graduate and athlete. And in 2003, things changed, and we'll let her share a little bit about that as well. Genevieve, who are you and where does your story start?
I'm Genevieve Joy. I'm a higher self healer, and I'm also a single mom to 3 amazing homeschooled kids. My oldest is, she'll be 17 in December. That's a little mind blowing. And then I also have my middle child is 11 and my youngest is 8. So we got the whole gamut. And, it's just really, I have a lifelong story of victimization and victimhood, and just really believing that first of all, that I needed to earn love. I needed to earn attention. And I got the message pretty early on. I was always a very intuitive, empathic, sensitive person. And back then I did not see that as an asset. That really felt like a liability. And I really got the message loud and clear that I didn't deserve to get any sort of love and attention. And, love was treated like a currency in my house growing up, right? Same with attention. Those were really the same thing. It really wasn't love, what we would, really as parents, certainly that I would think of as love now. It was just, kind of eyeballs and time with parents, right? And so I did everything that I could think to do to try to earn that, right? Get perfect grades. If I ever felt sick or felt like I had a problem, don't talk about it. Tell nobody, ignore it, figure out what you can do on your own, or just ignore it and hope it goes away. And the issue was that I had a chronic pain condition that I was probably born with called interstitial cystitis. And any adult who's ever had that, it's a really, really intense bladder pain of unknown origin. And I had that since I was 2 years old. And it just became incredibly, incredibly difficult to deal with life. And, I felt like nobody was going to help me. So I just kind of kept it to myself for as long as I could. And life kept going, things happened, and I started to feel worse and worse. And I started to have new symptoms, brain fog, fatigue, like fatigue to the point that I would be walking along and I would just fall over and pass out. That's the kind of fatigue we're talking about as an 11-year-old child. And I, started complaining to my parents. And no, they just told me I was just out to get attention, and it's time for you to be quiet and go away. And then one day I passed out in the middle of a soccer game, and the soccer moms united and told my mother that it was time for me to get some serious medical attention. And so she took me to a doctor who, and at that point I should say, I had a softball sized tumor in my neck. You couldn't miss it, especially on an 11-year-old kid, right?
Wow.
Yeah. It was softball size. And this man, the doctor, came into the exam room and he said, look, I see that, sure, physical signs are pointing to like some sort of thyroid issue, but you're a kid. That's an old lady disease. You can't have that. But I guess I'll do a biopsy just to shut you up and get you out of my office. So right then, yeah, he did a fine needle biopsy and left the room, went to go, look at the cells under the microscope. As long as I live, I will never forget this man's face as he walked back in the room. His eyes were as big as dinner plates. And he said, you have cancer, get out of my office, because I was a child. And nobody, I don't know if it's ever happened since, but nobody at that time, I don't think in the world, had ever taken out the thyroid of a prepubescent child. And they didn't know, they had no idea what would happen to me, because your, thyroid hormones control your metabolism, your rate of growth, every single cell in your body, from your brain to your digestive system and everything in between is controlled by your thyroid hormones. And they were like, we will not be the people on the books who do anything to you. You can come after it's out, but not now. So we just went and found a general surgeon just to get the thing out. And, really, really long road to recovery. And I had another surgery after that ended up being over 12 hours long at a major, famous research hospital that you would know the name of. And they took out an additional 200 tumors from the base of my brain to the top of my heart. And it was just a really rare form of cancer. We tried chemotherapy. So I had all those fun symptoms, but it wasn't effective on my particular kind of cancer. And so I was left with a lot of just really awful symptoms. And I wasn't able to just feel okay. The issue was that I never felt okay. From the time I was born, I was in pain, I was tired, and I just felt like this is as good as it gets. It's never going to get better. So I'm either going to choose to have a life and go do it. There's a lot of stuff I wanted to do, or I'm going to just I guess give up, and I decided I'm not just going to give up. I'm going to go do stuff. And I didn't see a way to actually heal this stuff. So I just ignored it. I ignored the physical pain from the interstitial cystitis. I ignored my fatigue. I really ignored the brain fog. I drank a ridiculous amount of caffeine, to maintain my 4.3 GPA in high school and 4.3 GPA in college as well. I was a standout athlete in high school as well. And I went on to play college volleyball too. And all of those things, your body talks to you the whole time, right? It's giving you feedback signals, right? When you're like, hey, it's time to go to bed, or hey, maybe don't work out so hard at midnight after you've been studying all day long. But I got used to just ignoring my body because I felt like it doesn't matter what it's telling me. There's nothing I can do about it. And I got stuff to do. So it's just going to have to be quiet.
And how many women actually do that? They just ignore their body because they've got stuff to do. They've got children to look after. They've got to get to work. They're ignoring all these things that their body is telling them either to slow down or get more sleep or change their diet. And we really need to pay more attention to our bodies, don't we? And reach out as far as we can. Yeah.
It's true. And what I didn't know then, which I know very clearly now, is that, of course, nobody consciously creates their problems. We have another embodiment of ourselves, which is our unconscious mind. Our unconscious mind runs our body. It's in charge of our emotions and our past experiences, right? And all of that stuff. Well, since those things work together, our emotional body and our physical body can become like a gauge for our emotional body. And I didn't know that then, right? And now I do. And now that I've cleaned up all of that stuff around, my family. And then of course I went on to have a 14-year abusive marriage. And I just, yeah, all of those times that, that I put myself on the back burner and tried to shut things off, eventually at around year 12, 13, I couldn't shut it off anymore. And I had to accept the fact that I was going to die if I didn't do something dramatically different. And I look, I'm just one of those people that's very, very driven to, obviously do more, but be more, right? When I see a problem in my life, I want to fix it, but I just didn't know how. I knew that this is going to date me, but what I used to say is that it's like I have a tape player playing in my head. Remember those, right? I'd say I used to have a tape player in my head playing on a loop. And I don't know what it's saying, but I know it's not very nice. And I know that until I change, either get rid of that tape player or change what it's saying, nothing in my life is going to change. Because the truth of the matter is my relationship with my now ex-husband was really exactly the same as my relationship with my parents. As much as I tried and I thought, this guy's going to get me out of my relationship with my parents. No, all I did was recreate the same thing in a new place. And that's
what we do. We create those same patterns, don't we? And like you said, you see a problem and you want to fix it. So that transfers over into relationships. And I completely understand, and our audience will completely understand as well, going from the parents to the husband is this thing that we need to fix, right? That's controlling our emotions. Our subconscious is controlling those feelings, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. I did traditional therapy for years and years and years, specifically talking about my relationship with my parents and, then specifically talking about my relationship with my husband while I was still married. But it wasn't like making meaningful change. I might feel a little bit better for a little while, but like nothing was really happening. And then one day we had a pretty serious altercation. And I remember looking at him, he was an alcoholic. And I looked at him and I said something that I'd said over and over and over. I'm like, look, our life is fine. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was taking care of the kids. I really was happy with my life, except for all the times that he was there, right? And he would say horrible things to me and do horrible things, right? And I'm like, you're the problem. You just need to change. And my life can't be better until you change. And he's, responded in the way he'd always responded, but for some reason, this time it hit different. And he looked at me and he said, you are the only one who's a problem here. And I just had one of those moments where like time stops for a second. And it just hit me that I just realized that, wait a minute, what's a problem? A problem is something that causes someone to experience pain. Well, if that's it, he's right. He's not experiencing pain. He likes his life just fine. He gets to, go be the big man at work, go get drunk with his buddies, come home, have dinner made for him, go to bed, lather, rinse, repeat every single day. He doesn't have any pain. I'm the one who's in a lot of pain. And
That's
the
powerful.
moment Yep. And the moment I realized that was the moment I took all my power back to change the situation, because up until then, I'd been saying, I can't be happy until my mom is different. Right? I can't be happy until my husband is different, but they don't want to be different. Right. And the truth that I didn't realize until that moment was that my presence was actually disincentivizing them to change. Why would they change? They weren't experiencing it. Change is hard. Change is hard. And sometimes we need a little bit of a push to do that. And with me, playing the role that I'd played, there was no push. There was no reason for them to make those difficult choices, right? Well, as soon as I said, see you later, then, what hit the fan for him. And, he started having some reasons, right? So we had this big altercation. I've got 3 kids. My oldest was, I think, 13 or 12 or 13 at the time. And later that night, she came to me and she said, Mom, why don't you just leave? And until then, I had this realization that, okay, I have the problem. That means I have the power to fix it. This is great. But I still thought I can fix it inside our marriage, right? Because my thought process was, look, he's my kid's dad, love it or don't love it. He's always going to be a part of their life. And what I don't want to do, what a terrible mom would do, would leave their kids alone with this person who's just going to, treat them like emotional garbage cans. And what kind of mom would that make me? I want to shield them from that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my daughter said this to me, I had, again, another one of those life-changing moments where, in an instant, I saw my life fast forward like 10 years. And I saw her in her own abusive relationship and me saying to her, why don't you just leave? I can't understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you staying? And
We've got to break those generational chains, don't we? Because we're a product of our environment and our conditioning, and it takes a very strong set of circumstances to be able to change that. And just, I love how passionate you are about foreseeing the future for your children like that as well, because we think by staying, we're doing the right thing, but it's only for our own comfort. We're trying to justify from that trauma bond, aren't we?
It's true. It's so true. And had I not had my kids there, I probably would have stayed, right? Just because it was, in a horrible way, it was comfortable, right? And once I realized that if I don't find a way to turn this ship around right now, that's inevitable. My daughter, my kids recreating the situations, it's almost inevitable. And that was enough for me to say, forget it. I don't care what has to happen. This is not going to continue anymore. And mind you, my health was so bad at this point, I looked like a skeleton. I'm 6'1" and I weighed barely over 100 pounds because I was in so much physical pain from the interstitial. I mean, obviously my stress level was through the roof, right? So my physical pain was just out of control. I wouldn't be able to sleep for days on end. My nervous system was just on such high alert that even the pressure of clothes on my body could send me into overdrive, cause me to vomit or pass out. Like I'm not really living here. And that's why I was like, I can't function. How do I even do life, right? If I don't have help? But, realizing that if I don't do something, then my kids are going to have this kind of no life. And that's a no. That's a no for me. Yeah. And so the very next day I filed for divorce, and I hired my own spiritual healer. And, the really difficult part, it was all difficult, right? But I was a stay-at-home mom for 14 years and my ex-husband made about $500,000 US a year. And that very next day, he went and closed all of our bank accounts. So I went from having all of this, and of course, I have no relationship with my family at all. I had restraining orders against them. So I went from that to, girl, you are on your own, all the way on your own. It was a lot, and it was really intense. But in one sense, it was really nice because you talk about wiping the slate clean. Sometimes it's kind of nice just to start all the way at the bottom and you get to make it whatever you want to. And that was the opportunity that I had. And so I just put everything that I had into my work with my spiritual healer. And, we got a few sessions in, and we did it all virtually. She happened to be Australian as well. And so I took every single one of my sessions sitting in my car outside of a Starbucks using their Wi-Fi, because that was the only place that I felt like, I had privacy and could do that. And one day, about 15 minutes before our session was about to start, my pain became so intense, like I couldn't see, and I didn't want to waste her time. And so I messaged her and I said, look, I just, I want you to know that this is where I'm at right now. Let's reschedule. And she said, nope, this is happening for a reason. I'll see you in 5 minutes. And so I said, all right, well, it's on you. I told you. So we started the session. I was, crying and, just in a lot of pain. And she asked me to rate my pain on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm like, it's 100. And she's like, okay, all right. And so, we got into the emotional aspects of what was going on. And we went back to the very, very first time that I could consciously remember experiencing this kind of thing. And she asked me to ask that version of myself what belief I had to have in order to make this happen. And I said the belief was that I really, really wanted attention from my family. And I felt like I couldn't get it any other way. And I said, but that's what does that mean? That just means like what? So I did this to myself. I gave myself cancer. I gave myself this horrible physical disease. And she goes, so what if you did? So what if you did? What if this was the only way you felt like you could get attention? Because apparently it was. That's what had to happen. She's like, look back on your life, dear. This is what had to happen for you to get, attention from your parents, and that equated to love. And as soon as we did that, and then we did this very specific healing process called timeline therapy, my pain immediately went from 100 to a 3. And I could not believe it. And she's like, okay, well, it was about 45 minutes later, 45 minutes. And she goes, all right, message me. It's at a 0. And I didn't say this, but I was like, give me a break. Come on, like narcotics can't take my pain away, but like, you really think that, okay, whatever. And by the time I got home 20 minutes later, it was a 0. And it has never come back in any measure since then. And I've been through some stressful stuff, going through divorce proceedings, going through custody battles. And I've had this my whole life. It's never come back at all. And it was then that I realized this is magic. This is powerful magic. I got to learn how to do this. And I got to teach as many other people as I can how to do this. And I just really realized that I have never been a victim. I've never been a victim. I've just seen myself in that light. And that caused me to make choices that were really, really disempowering and keeping me stuck. But the truth of the matter is, I always was in control of my life. And now that I see that, and now that I have, access to these spiritual tools to help me change anything that doesn't feel empowered, that doesn't feel like love and acceptance, I really and truly, I'm not kidding when I say, I don't think anything can happen to me that I can't handle. I just really don't.
I think the power of the mind, and especially when we connect it with our body and our soul and our purpose, it is just such a peaceful but powerful place to be. And we hear this all the time, the cliche, you have the power within you. You really do. You really do have the power within you. And it all starts with just that one thought and that one step, doesn't it?
It's really true. And I'll tell you what, the thing that kept me from really realizing that and harnessing and stepping into that power was the concept of blame. And I see this a lot in other women. And I didn't realize until I got deep into this work what was really going on. And I think this is, if there's one thing that your listeners take away from this, I hope it's this, that blame is a binary. First of all, it's not an emotion, it's a choice. And once you start thinking about blame, we tend to get stuck into binary thinking, right? You heard me say that I kept blaming my husband. And look, let's be real. There's no universe where what he was doing is acceptable. But his choices, his behavior are never going to be okay, right? And also, it's not helpful for me to blame myself either. That puts me in victim mode as well. So what a lot of people tend to do is say, well, if I don't know how to change this. And since I don't know how to change this, my only real option here to try to feel better is to push it on you and make you be different, because how the heck else is this going to change? Right. And what we don't realize is we can go from like apathy, feeling like, I guess I'll just give up and who cares, right? To blaming someone else or blaming ourselves. And we don't realize there's something in the middle, and that is acceptance. And acceptance is not the same thing as giving up. What it means is,
thank
right?
you. Yes, I could not agree more there. Powerful.
Yeah, has nothing to do with giving up. In fact, until you come to acceptance, you don't have any power to change this thing. You don't, because as long as you're blaming yourself, you're not in a position to see your power to change it. And as long as you're blaming somebody else, you're giving away all of your power to change it, right? So it's only when you come to this place where you can say, I accept that this is happening. And this is the big part, this is what it means to me now, right? For so long, I heard people say, you're just creating this physical problem to try to get attention. And then, so the meaning I made from that was, I'm a horrible, selfish person, right? But that's not what it had to mean. I changed what that meant to me, right? Where I said, yep, I see and I accept that this situation is going on. And I want all this to mean that because I've been through all of this and I'm still alive, nobody has the power to do anything to me anymore that I can't take. I mean, really and truly, what can't I survive anymore? Nothing. I've overcome physical things that should have killed me, right? I've overcome abusive relationships and horrible, narcissistic parents, and being completely poor and not knowing how I'm going to feed myself or get the medicine I need to stay alive. I did all that stuff. I can do anything I want to do. So it's coming to this place where we accept what's happening and change the meaning so that we allow ourselves to come to this place where we really, bring in and accept all of our power to change the situation. That's what acceptance is. It's feeling neutral about it, not hating anything about it, not becoming super attached to having any particular outcome, but standing in your power in the present moment. That's the place where you're able to make change.
That is fantastic. And I love the saying as well, you survived 100% of your worst days. If you're still standing up to surviving 100% of your worst days, you're in a good place.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And, there's another thing that I see a lot of people do too. And I really think it's kind of a thing that we're wired to do. Like, in those tough moments, and I don't think a lot of us do this on a conscious level because we're not paying attention to that degree, right? But we'll have a tough moment. And then in some part of us, we'll probably say to ourselves, again, at an unconscious level, see, this is just evidence that I can't have what I want. I'm not capable of doing what I want, right? Or having what I want isn't possible for me. We take it as evidence of some sort of lack or limitation. But if you were to take a 30,000 foot view of that and all of those other things that led up to that, what you would see instead, that these are all little stepping stones that are leading you on a very clear path to getting what you want. They're not evidence of lack. They're stepping stones on a pathway that's bringing you exactly where you want to go.
I love that analogy as well. Looking down on it as stepping stones. That's very, very relatable. And I think obstacles as well. And I talk about this quite often. It's just the universe going, nah, bigger. We want you to go bigger.
More. Yes.
It's just
more.
how we look at the obstacles, and it's how we deal with it and how we tackle it. And you put it so perfectly. We're just looking down at that as stepping stones. And I know you're in an empowering space at the moment. You're helping so many people in your community with this journey. What kind of message would you like to leave the audience on today?
Yeah. So I think the one message that I'd like to leave is that there really truly is nothing you can't do within you now, even with all of those things about yourself you want to change. You really do have the power to be and do and receive anything that you want. With that self-belief and the tools to make it happen, babe, there's nothing you can't do. Nothing.
Oh, I love it. How powerful. Please connect with Genevieve. She will literally change or save your life or give you a new perspective and delve into everything that she does. We'll be sharing out where to connect with her. And thank you so much for being brave to share your story as well. And we'll be sharing where to connect with Genevieve Joy. She is so appreciated. She is a world changer. She is a thought leader, and she is empowering so many people to change and save their lives. You can find the Victim to Victory podcast series on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and our Facebook group. Please subscribe, share, and comment to help be the change that the world needs more than ever. And let me leave you with a message of step into your story, figure out who you are, and do it on purpose. Thank you, Genevieve.
Thank you so much for having me.